Naturalism is the privileging, equating the so-called unequals. What then can the natural science and nature really be said to be? Just as naturalism is the privileging of equating or connecting science with nature, so natural science is the privileging of equating on another level the so-called observations with the so-called theories or statements about those observations. We say so-called, since within the ideology, everything is so-called. Those are neither observations nor statements, but they're attempted concepts from the vantage point of other high-level concepts or equation that authors them. Naturalism is simply awareness referring to itself, and natural science is also the awareness referring to itself. As it is originated by naturalism, there are levels of awareness within the abyss of knowledge we are located in. One level of theory and a sequence of theories is the author of another. Each of these, spiraling down floors or verges, is not a point of view, but a vantage point of thinking. Self-awareness is not perception, but conception. Thinking, not seeing, located where there normally ought to be sight. The separation from God did not take place until woman committed the sin of rejecting words by rejecting the author of words. Rejection, which is the equation of one statement with another, without their respective authors, namely the equation of the statement, "You will surely die," with the statement, "You will not die." Those two statements, when considered without authors, are equated in the mind, producing effect, which is known within that effect as meaning, definition, nature or object of knowledge, study, and science. Naturalism is that effect within naturalism. We are told that this effect is also called inequality, incompleteness, change, evolution, or dualism, dichotomy, multiplicity, or the many outside of naturalism. However, that effect is known as confusion or spirit of error, spoken of in the Bible. Simply put, equating one set of words with another set of words without their individual authors produces attempted category for truth, an object in awareness called nature, which is changing, is unequal or dual, divided against itself. And then we use that vantage point as our self, with which we refer to reality. And it does not stop there, because further false equations can always be made. So that was the first false equation, the equation of words with sounds of words. Other equations soon followed. These attempted equations are synonymous with ideas, concepts, and categories. First, there was the equation of man below to God above. Then there was the equation of words with the concepts of words or sounds of words. Next to the equation of all other contents of awareness, whichever most immediately presents itself to awareness, namely, the equation of the earth below to man above, called environmentalism, then the equation of man to men, called humanism, then the equation of the people below, then the equation of the people below to the king above, called liberalism and democracy, then the equation of one people to another people, called racism, then the equation of man to woman, called sexism, then the equation of master to slave, called slavery, but also many others, such as the equation of light to darkness, called blindness, or within naturalism called induction, inference, or interpretation. All these equations are equations of ideas, not of realities, such as man, or God, or king, or the earth, or anything. So within naturalism, the changing object is called nature. Outside of naturalism, it is called self-awareness. Awareness being aware of itself and thinking that it is a being, an object, however divided. This object, because it is changing or moving, is not like the object woman was hoping to capture. The captured object was not captured. To the woman, however, it seemed she captured it. She was hoping to apprehend being. You will be as God, not the opposite of being, which is the inequalities, appearances, phenomena, confusion, and change, which is what she actually acquired, a hole in her soul. The object woman was targeting to capture was God's superiority or aboveness, which is the holy relation between man and God, called Spirit of Truth. And when she thought she acquired it, she realized that whatever she captured is a menace that is changing, revolving, moving, or simply put, being divided, dual, or made of two. She thought she captured God, but she only captured herself, her own awareness, spawning self-awareness. two elements or two ideas generating self-awareness, namely the awareness of the world and the awareness of being aware of the world, is the starting point of dualism, or awareness of duality, plurality, or inequality, change, appearances, and therefore what such mindset refers to as being dual or divided or unequal or incomplete or limited is not reference to things or to nature or to reality outside of that mindset, but to the contents of its own awareness, which it authored by starting to privilege denying reality, equating truth with lie, the true statement with the false one. What is divided, or what is unequal and changing, is not reality, but the mind self itself, the self-reference, the mindset, being the author of its references, allegedly to reality, relates, however, not to reality, but to the attempted ideas and concepts of reality. It is mind thinking on its own. Self-reference is not about reality, but about the self. It is statement about, or a reference to ideas, ideology, not about reality. It is subjectivism. What is unequal is not reality, but your thinking about reality outside you. Reality which is non-changing, non-evolving, fixed, permanent, ahistorical and atemporal, and peaceful. Naturalism, in spite of its aspirations to arrive at objectivity, fails to recognize the aspiration itself is subjectivism. Its central ambition is to privilege equating knowledge with reality in order to form law as the way of life and reference to reality. It is subjectivism through and through, as that privilege takes place over and above the relation between man below and God above, and this turns awareness towards itself. The term objectivity was coined by naturalism and stands for a hypothetical view from nowhere, a view of reality from no perspective, from no point of view. Naturalists claim that when reality is known or reported or spoken about from a point of view, be it the point of view of particular time or place or people, then it is necessarily limited or blocked or polluted by that point of view, which is another way of saying that it is not a view or sight at all, and that, therefore, it is idea or ideology, that of supremacy. If that is so, then statements expressed from a point of view are somehow anything but the truth and reality. This here is but one example showing that naturalism is not speaking about or referring to reality, namely to views, perspectives, or sight, but is rather speaking about attempted ideas and theories of sight. No man in reality considers sight to be pollution to be remedied. Only theory and the theorists do otherwise. We see with sight, not through sight. To naturalists, sight is not sight in being, but idea and ideology, since it is located outside categorization and conceptualization, outside of laws, and therefore over and above the self-awareness, the black hole of naturalism, in which case sight is regarded by naturalism as impurity and supremacy blocking access to the bottom of the abyss, theorized to be the alleged reality in itself, the noumenal reality, so-called. For that reason, we are told that we do not see reality, since we look at reality through sight, or as naturalists read it, through impurity. Only to naturalists, however, light is darkness. At any rate, that is one of the first assumptions of naturalism, namely that we do not see reality directly, since we see something else first, namely sight. If you accept such ludicrous conclusion, then you are caught into doubt and skepticism, within which all other postulates seem plausible. Naturalism's starting point is this rebellion against the author, against sight, light, truth, the author, the subject, the observer, the knower, the speaker, the thinker, the actor, the person, the man above the earth, God, and the purpose. Natural science starts with an intent to eradicate your sight, since sight reflects reality outside of concepts, and therefore discredits the self-aware reason as reality, and for that crime, reality is denounced as ideology and pollution to the banished. Natural science is this attempt to eliminate your sight with description, a theory, or reason. Natural science constitutes the program aimed to disappear that very seeing subject by preventing him from referring to reality with each and every perspective on reality. That is done under the pretense of purifying that hypothetical reality from none other than the light of sight and speech expressed, so as to attain something called objectivity, which is simply blindness, mind in place of sight. Naturalism is the evil eye, the mindset and ideology revolving against spirit of truth, against God Himself. The method to attain that blindness is called scientific method. The anti-realists finally admitted that it is not really a method or principle, but rather privilege, read ill will or willful intent to equate sight to mind in order to form a mindset as reference to reality. Upon separation from God above, loss of truth and knowledge of reality occurred. Gap of doubt was left in man's awareness. That awareness on its own, now separated from God, is revolting and seeking to expand under the pretext of arriving at the so-called complete picture of the world, or complete knowledge of reality, or total state of totalitarian movements, by eliminating the so-called duality or plurality of substances. Plurality, which is also called multiplicity, the many, duality, inequality, change, chaos, revolution, evolution, or the world of perceptions, the world of mere appearances, or the world of inequalities. It is that very changing object. That so-called evolution or change is what the self-awareness knows when it looks at, or rather thinks of, reality. It does not see reality, or one stable, permanent state, but rather it sees what it calls either the structural system or mere appearances, illusions, the phenomenal world, the world of perceptions, or the world of sight, the world of many, the world of inequalities, none of which is regarded as real, since the self-aware mindset has no way to privilege either one of its ideas as more real than the other, so it concludes that such duality or plurality of substances is not reality. Yet, the reports of inequality themselves, by contrast, are definitely credible reality. So the circular mindset keeps arguing that these so-called pluralities or inequalities must be parts of some assumed one thing, also called the same thing or the equal thing, the actual reality behind the inequalities. Such theoretical one being is named the one, or equality, or law, or logos, or God, or nature, or object, or the thing in itself to be attained. Natural science was hoped by the naturalists to be the missing link to attain or establish that very one thing, or the so-called complete knowledge, so as to eliminate the so-called inequality. In order to eliminate that inequality, naturalism sets out to certify natural science as objective. To accomplish that, it asserts we must find a theory of science, or account of science, that would bring under law, concept, or method the relation between observations and statements. Naturalism is asking, how do you justify the relation between sight and speech, as if it was true that telling truth required justification or legalization, as if telling the truth was a matter not of person, but that of principle or law? This is aside from the fact that naturalism is not referring to sight or speech in asking that question. If law or concept or category for truth cannot be found, for the relation or the distinction between perception and statements about the perceived things, then naturalism claims those statements cannot be regarded as knowledge and truth. If there is no category for truth, that must mean not that truth does not require a category to be the truth, but that truth is not real. Or so claims the ideology of naturalism, which is like saying, since we cannot find idea or concept for the relation between light and darkness, therefore light and sight are not reality but ideology and supremacy. Obviously, naturalism is not referring to truth, but to the truth within naturalism, that is to say, to the attempted idea of truth. However, we must not ask, why should ideology be the test or criterion of reality? Why should law be privileged over sight in speech expressed, normally called the truth? Naturalism argues that since there is no justification, no law, no category or concept or idea that would justify speaking what you see, and observe therefore speech, words and truth are not reality but ideology over and above the alleged natural law, which desperately wants to establish itself as reality. Why would it be necessary for truth to be under law? Truth is above law. Law is not the way. Truth is the way. Words are above the law. The distance between truth above and law or lie below belongs to the truth, just like the distance or the border between light above and darkness belongs to the light. Light does not require law in order to shine through darkness to be light. Shining is truth and reality, not ideology called supremacy.